I can't lift all of the books that I have here. Oh boy. Hey book lovers, Kaylee here, and welcome back to the Enchanted Library, and this is my first book haul of 2019, and it is actually all of the books that I received in December, which includes books from Christmas and books that I've purchased and books that I was given to by publisher. And alright, you know what? I think the best thing that I can do right now is just go into the books. So I think I'm going to start out with some books that I received from HarperCollins, and these books I have been eagerly anticipating. If you watched my most anticipated releases video, two of these books are definitely on there, so I'm so excited to have them. Two of them release this month, so keep your eyes peeled in bookstores because I believe by the time you're watching this, they're probably already out. But the first book, sorry, I keep looking at the pile and stacks of books that I have here. So the first book that I have here is Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. Definitely one of my most anticipated releases for 2019 because it follows essentially a ninja assassin academy, and it is based on feudal Japan, and it just seems so intriguing to me. I love the idea of having a duo where each one fills in the blanks for the other. So we have a female character who is amazing at magic, who is a really good assassin style character, and she has her partner being a very physically strong, smart character who sort of helps keep her out of trouble, but also definitely gets her into trouble sometimes too. It's a time of peace, but our two main characters definitely are looking for some trouble, and then they go undercover with this other sect of people that seem to be on the nefarious side, so sounds so good. The next book that I received from HarperCollins is another one that comes out in January, which I think again is already out by the time you're watching this video, but that is The Field Guide to the North American Teenager by Ben Philippe. Now this book is an Own Voices contemporary YA coming of age story where there is a Black Canadian boy who ends up moving to Texas to attend high school, and the way that he sort of deals with all of the different types of people is he puts them into their own categories. So you've got the jocks, the loners, the cheerleaders, and he's just figuring out how to survive in the world of Texas high school until he has the ability to come back home to Canada. So I feel like this is just going to be a really great commentary, an Own Voices novelization of a coming of age, fish out of water sort of story, which I am very excited to read. I don't normally go for contemporary YA, but I feel like this is just going to be one that I won't be able to put down. And next up from HarperCollins is another one that I am super excited about, and it comes out in February, and that is The Cerulean by Amy Ewing. So again, this is another one that was on my most anticipated releases of 2019, so be sure to check out that video if you have not yet already. But this book covers a world where there's a city that essentially orbits different worlds, and it stays there by way of a tether. And when that city is ready to move on to the next world, they nominate someone, which is a really great honor, to cut the tether, but it is also a big sacrifice. So we follow a girl who wants to go to the next world, she wants to travel with her city, but she ends up being nominated to cut the tether. And when she does so, she drops down to the world that they were attached to, and she discovers all of these beings that she had no idea even existed. While on this world, she uncovers a plot that is going on in her city, and she has to find a way to get back to help. And I just cannot wait to read this one. Next up, we have a book that I picked up at the very end of December because it came out on the 31st, but the bookstore may have released it like a couple of days early, so I definitely went and I picked it up early. But that is Evermore, and that is by Sarah Holland. So this is the sequel to Everless, which released in 2018. I feel like still saying last year is 2017. I have to get used to that. But to not spoil Evermore, Everless is about a world where your blood, your life force, is currency. So we have Jules, who has lived with her father for her entire life, and he has always taken care of her. He has always sacrificed his life force in order to pay for her education, to pay for her to survive, so then that way she never had to do it herself. Because as you give your life force to get money, you lose like time in your life. So you could lose a couple of days, you could lose a couple years it just all depends on how much money you need to survive. And it's a really interesting system in that respect and really well thought out. But when her father dies, Jules has to use her own life force in order to get back up to the castle where she had worked with her father when they were younger and sort of relive this world that she had known when she was younger but was essentially banished from for reasons that she doesn't quite believe. So this is all about Jules's journey as to why they were banished in the first place, how to survive in this world, and there is this whole mythology underneath that really comes to the surface in the end of the first book that just really turned it on its head. So I'm very excited to continue on with Evermore because, oh man, this duology, it's going to be taking it places because that ending just... The first book turned out to be completely different than what I was anticipating, which I absolutely loved, so cannot wait to read this one. Next up, we have a book that I'm pretty sure I've been wanting to read for about 15 years, and I don't know why it's taken me so long, but I finally picked it up, and that is Timeline by Michael Crichton. And I'm sure you know this name from Jurassic Park fame, but oh, look at that, me rhyming. But this book is all about a group of archaeologists and scientists who end up having to go back in time. It's just so cool. Things get a little crazy for them when they find a note at one of the dig sites saying, "Help me," and it is from their professor who they just saw this morning, but they carbon date the paper and it's like centuries old. So we have some time travel, we have multiple POVs, and we also have a countdown. There is a countdown in this book, so it just really makes everything seem a lot more real and a lot more on the edge of your seat. Next up, we have A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn, and this is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell mystery series. And this is one that Man, when I first heard the premise of this, I was so on board. So Veronica is a world traveler, and being in 1887, I just love that premise just in and of itself. Like a female world traveler back in the Victorian London era. I just absolutely love that idea. But she is living with her spinster aunt as they travel the world, and she fends off the suitors, and life is what it is. She goes about her days until her aunt dies. But then one day, Veronica ends up thwarting an attempted abduction of herself with the help of a baron, and then she becomes friends with a guy named Stoker who is like just a really rude historian, and I just want that friendship connection because I don't think it's going to be a romantic connection. I just can't wait to see that friendship unfold and for them to go and figure out mysteries of who was trying to abduct her and why. And this is just the start of a series, and I think there's 4 books already out in it, so the journey that these two, I can imagine, go on is just so fun. So this is one that I've been wanting to read for a while, and I did wait until the paperback came out of the first book because they changed the covers. So if you have the hardcover of this first book, it is different from the rest of all of the other covers, so I waited until this came out so then that way I could make sure that all of the books matched, because that's just how I do. Next up, we're moving into some books that I received as gifts for Christmas, and the first book that I have here is one that I hadn't heard of, but I got it from my parents, and it is A Study in Treason by Leonard Goldberg, and this is a Daughter of Sherlock Holmes mystery series. So this is the first book, and I'm presuming a series actually. So this, as I said, is a story about the daughter of Sherlock Holmes and her adventures with the son of Dr. Watson. I can't tell if this is middle grade or YA, but either way, it has to do with Sherlock Holmes, so we know I'm going to love it. Next up, we have an adult historical fiction or contemporary, I'm not quite sure, but that is The Bookshop of Yesterdays by Amy Meyerson, and this is all about a book where a girl, when she was younger, she went to her relative's bookshop and he would always have scavenger hunts for her. And when she is older, her relative passes on and he sort of wants to leave her with one final scavenger hunt. And it has to do with the bookstore that he owned, and it just seems like such a lovely story. So the next book that I received for Christmas is Harry Potter related, and that is J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World Creatures Magic Film Projections. And I think that this is such a cute idea, especially if you have younger kids, because this tells the story of Harry Potter through classic projections, which I love. I mean, I might be of the age where they don't do this anymore, but anybody who is like 25 plus years old, do you remember being in school and having the projector that goes onto the board instead of these fancy boards that they have now, and having to remember if you wanted it to be projected up and you're writing on the clear paper, you have to basically write backwards and upside down in order for it to reflect properly? That was quite the skill set to have if you could do that quite easily. I never had that skill set myself, but I digress. This has it all done for you. So you can set this up at night, use a flashlight, and then tell the story of Harry Potter while you project the images onto your wall. And it has just quick little scenes from Harry Potter, and it's just such a cute little idea. I don't even know if you can really see it, but we've got, the first one there was Dobby on Harry's bed. This one is Harry riding on Buckbeak. So it just goes through all the different creatures. We have Fox and little scenes about them as well. And this is part of a series that the Wizarding World came out with. So this one in particular is Creatures. I believe that there is another one for Patronus and a couple of other things, which the Patronus one would be really cool to see on the wall behind you because it would just really feel magical. And the next Harry Potter book that I ended up getting is the Newt Scamander movie scrapbook to accompany Fantastic Beasts. Now, I have a couple of these movie scrapbooks, but the ones for the entirety of the film, not the character ones. This is the first character one I have, but I absolutely love these because they are so interactive and you learn so much behind the scenes about these characters and about the Wizarding World. So this one in particular, right at the front here, it has the magical map that is in the MACUSA offices when they're tracking all of the different magic that is happening in the first movie. And then we have some Newt Scamander pictures there. And then just flipping through, we've got a bit of information on Queenie and Jacob. And then we have character cards. I just love how interactive these are. They're just so well done, so amazingly put together. I could just flip through these all day, and I have before. So I really recommend these books because they are just so amazing for any Harry Potter movie lover. It's just great. Next up is another book that is kind of in my fandom zone, which I don't know if I should say fandom or obsession, but it is Belle's Library, and this is a hardcover cloth-bound book that accompanies the Beauty and the Beast live-action movie, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful book. All it is quotes and musings about those quotes, and I just find that so beautiful because some of the quotes in here, they're just gorgeous, and I love the little nods and little details that they have in regards to the art. I don't know if you can really see that, and the penmanship, and I just think that this book is so beautiful. I absolutely love it. Next up, I received a book that is another beautiful, beautiful book. This is definitely a coffee table book though, and it is The Illustrated Dust Jackets from 1920 to 1970 by Martin Salisbury. And this is just full of different covers from different artists that drew them. Even the chapter heading pages are gorgeous. So this has obviously different spines here, but it is the entrance for the artists chapters. So it's all in alphabetical order, but these particular pages are all about Edward Addisone, who was based out of the UK from 1900 to 1979, and these are some of the covers that he illustrated. And it gives a little bit about his history and his art style, and it's just such a fascinating read. And then there's Stanley Badman from 1906 to 1989 and the different covers that he did. It's just so amazing how talented people are. Like, I can't get over it. This is a type of book that I would love to have an entire series of, so then that way I can sort of track the different styles of art design from covers from decade to decade. So this being the 1920s to 1970s, I would really love to have like the 1970s to the 1990s or something. Like, it's just so gorgeous. This is another one that I could just flip through forever. And then the last books that I have here are actually repurchases from me because I had this series many, many years ago. But about 6 years ago, I lent them to one of my friends, and she does still have them, and in the year last year, so late in 2018, she asked if I wanted them back, and I said, no, don't worry about it, you can keep them, I'll just buy a new set. So I did, and I just really love this series. It's the Legend series. I love it so much. It's by Marie Lu. If you have not read these, I highly recommend it. It is a dystopian YA series, but I feel like it is so unique to the world of dystopian literature, and it did come out, I think in 2011 was when I read the first book, so it has been out for a while, but Marie Lu did announce that she is writing book 4 in this series. Even though we thought it was done, it's coming back. So I really recommend getting your hands on these books if you have not read them yet, because she is a powerhouse of a writer. I am so excited to see what happens next in this series, and it did even come with a little additional novella about the life before Legend. This is a series that I've been wanting to repurchase for myself for a few years since I did lend them to my friend, and I'm so glad that I have them back on my shelves, and I'm definitely going to be rereading them soon. Phew, okay, so that's a lot of books, but those are all of the books that I bought and received in December 2018, so officially the first book haul of 2019 is complete. But please let me know in the comments down below how your holidays went, what books you've recently picked up, and if you have read any of these and you want to give me your thoughts and opinions on them, please do, because I don't quite know where to begin. And as always, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content. I put out new videos every weekend, and until next time, keep reading.